Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we're going to discuss drawing figures and objects, our last lesson for the first grading this school year. So let's start. So our lesson for today is drawing figures and objects. This will be the last lesson for the first grading this new normal. So let's start. Our objective for today is going to be around lines, shapes, forms, space, colors, value, texture, proportion, and some quick tips for drawing proportions correctly. So let's start. First question, what are the different techniques in drawing illusion? You may pause this video and write your answer in the comment section down below. Next, why do we need to use illusions in our illustrations? Again, you may pause this video and write your answer on the comment section down below. So let's start with the first concept, which is lines. Remember, lines have direction, just like in geometry. Okay? They can be visible or invisible and can help direct the eyes to a specific spot, just like what we discussed last time in terms of perspective. Okay? Perspective have invisible lines that guides you as the illustrator to make adjustments on your drawing so that it would be realistic, specifically when you're drawing in the first isometric, in 1 point perspective or in 2 point or more points in your perspective. Okay, so that is invisible, while visible lines are those you are drawing. The thickness of a line can also communicate certain cues. Bold and thick lines can draw attention, while thin lines are the opposite. In architecture and engineering, if you use too thick, let's say you use a technical pen that is too thick, so it will produce a thick line, it will have a different meaning for the foreman or for the engineer that is handling the project. Okay, it might be 2 or more hollow blocks thick, or like what happened to one celebrity on the stairs. Okay, it became viral. Probably it would have the wrong dimensions that will be drawn or that will be created. Okay, and just like what we discussed last time, the nearer the object, it should have a bolder line. Okay, it has more detail compared to the ones that are at the background. Okay, the farther it gets, the lesser detail. Okay, the farther the object is on your illustration, the lesser detail it should be. That's why they are using thin lines, but the nearer it is to the viewer, the more detailed it should have. And then we have shapes. Shapes is the result of enclosed lines to form a boundary. Just like in geometry, okay, a shape is an enclosed figure. Okay, so everything can be started with a shape, just like the first one of our activities that are here. Okay, you can use shapes to form the silhouette of the tarsier. So we have 3 kinds. Okay, we have geometric, organic, and abstract. When we say geometric shapes have structure and are often mathematical and precise. Shapes can add emphasis to a layout. So probably squares, circles, triangles. Okay, most of the time these are used on exact measurements. Okay, like for example in engineering, in architecture, sometimes in carpentry also. Okay, anything that needs to be precise, they are using geometric shapes. While on the other hand, organic shapes lacks well-defined edges and often feel natural and smooth. Okay, shapes add emphasis also to a layout. So the difference here is basically it's not the usual shape that you see. Okay, like for example rectangle, triangle, or a circle. And let's say you saw a stone. It's not a circle, it's not a rectangle, it has its own definite shape. It's the same with organic shapes. Okay? They have their own specific shapes that are not within the concept of a geometric shape. And then we have abstract shapes. Abstract shapes are a minimalist representation of reality. For instance, a stick figure of a person in an abstract shape. Logos are mostly represented by abstract figures to show the type of business. The icon packs that we use in, or what we call glyph icons, that we use in developing softwares, developing websites, are examples of abstract shapes. So forms. Form is the positive element over the space, the negative element. So what is a form? Basically, this is the shape that you draw. Okay? A dot, a line, or a shape is a form when placed on a page. On the other hand, the next one is space, the negative space, or the negative element that we're talking about here. So the negative element is the space that you are not using. For example, is this area, okay, is a negative element. This is a white space. We call it white space, even though it's not color white. Here also is a white space, so this here. Okay. While this text, the words, this circle in a line, and this illustration and these dots are what we call forms. Colors. Colors create moods and can say something different depending on the connotation associated with it. Also, it can create an emphasis on specific areas of your design layout. Let's say the concept of red, yellow, and green. Okay, red basically danger. Red means error in IT. Okay, as a programmer, red means error. So whenever I'm creating a website and there's an error, I'm expecting there's an error, I'll be using red background or red text. A red background with white text, or white background with red text. And also some glyph icons. Okay. Yellow means warning. It means there's a possible mistake on the input. So I'll use yellow for that. While green is for successful transaction or successful operation of the site or the function. Okay. So in illustration, it should be also the same. Another mood. Just like what we discussed last time. Okay, let's say if you're happy, you use yellow. If you're sad, possible you use dark colors. Okay, if you're in a winter setup, you use blue. Okay, or any shades of blue. If it's summer, you use yellow. If it's spring, you use green. If you use orange, it's autumn. If you're having a high fever, it's red. Okay, so there are different meanings for colors. In addition, we have hue. Hue is the name of a color in its purest form. For computers, it's cyan, magenta, and green. Okay, but if we're talking about basic colors, just like what was discussed to us during our elementary years, red, green, blue. Cyan is blue, magenta is red, and of course green is green. Okay, it means basically if it's pure, it doesn't have any hint of white, any hint of black, because if there is a smallest hint of black, it would have a different shade. Shade is the addition of black to a hue in order to make it darker. So let's say you want a maroon color. So magenta, for example, the printer, okay? You want a maroon color. It would put the magenta and a touch of black ink to create the maroon that you want, because maroon is darker than magenta. Okay? If you want to have, let's say, a darker version, lighter version, okay, we call it tint. Tint is the addition of white to a color to make a lighter version. Of course, printers don't have any white color. So let's do it in a painting. Okay, so let's say you want to have a pink, okay, and you only have red color, okay, or red pigment. So what you will do is just simply add white until the desired to your desired color of or shade of or tint of pink. Okay, so adding white, making it lighter. Of course, we have the third one, which is tone. This one, we mix gray. Okay, we all know that black and white, when you combine it, it produces gray. Tone is the addition of gray to make a color muted. Okay, muted, when I say muted, it's like this color palette here. It's like a grayscale. Okay, so basically, it's not that vibrant or it's not that dark. And then saturation. Saturation refers to the purity of a color. A specific color is most intense when it is not mixed with white or black. So the hue here is the purest form. It means it's the most vibrant of all the color. So let's say it's a yellow, it's the brightest yellow that you can see. Okay? Or if it's blue, it's the vibrant blue. Okay? It's a 100% saturation of blue. Value refers to the degree of lightness and darkness of a specific hue. So here it's a combination of your the first one, which is shade and tint. Okay, it's either of the two. Okay, so specific degree of lightness and darkness. So then we have texture. It adds a tactile appearance to a design layout. So let's say you're good in making illusion of a marble, okay, or a grain of wood. You can use that in your illustration. Then proportion. When we talk about proportion, it refers to the dimension of a composition and relationship between the height, width, and depth. Okay, it's very important to make realistic drawings or styles proportion with each other. Okay, it is a bit difficult, especially if you're not use exact measurements. Okay, so here are some things to consider. First, the positive space. Okay, positive space is the shape that is actually present or drawn. So take note on what you have drawn on your canvas. So tip number 1, spend more time looking or measuring, less time drawing. Okay, again, more time looking and measuring than drawing. Why? In my case, I'm not that good in drawing, but I can identify something that is not exactly proportion with each other. Okay, by simply looking at it. A simple miss in a line can make your object a bit crooked. Okay, so practice doing that. Assign numbers to the sizes of objects. Let's say you have 4 kinds of boxes. The smallest and the biggest is the last one. Okay, so it depends on the position of your object in the canvas, in the foreground, midground, or background, and you should identify already what are the numbers or the measurements or the dimensions of those objects. Consider the spaces in between objects. Again, you need to take into consideration the space, because if it's not proportion to the space, okay, it's not realistic. Okay, draw lightly to start. This is my problem. I have a heavy hand, so most of the time I draw a dark line already. But if you are good in illustration, you should start light sketches. Use dots, lines, and simple geometric shapes to indicate the presence of an object. You don't need to draw the object itself. Okay, if you're just estimating the proportions, you just put either a square, okay, or a circle to signify that that is the position of your object, and you can think of ways on how to make it proportion. They measure using several different reference objects. Like for example, your main character. Okay, If it's farther from the main character, it should be smaller, just like what we discussed last time. Okay, if it's nearer to the object, to the main character, okay, and by description, that thing or that person or that character is smaller than the main character, it should be in proportion with the main character also. Okay, those are some tips that I can give you. So, what technique do you still need to improve? Okay, you may post this video and write your answer on the comment section down below. So again, don't forget, be inspired. Imagination is more important than knowledge, according to Albert Einstein. So with that, I hope you learned something about our lesson, and we'll see you again next time.